Scale hacks. This is all about scale hacks. Yes, I am one of those people going through indoor isolation in jeans. Sue me. I do need to say a short disclaimer. Even though these are scale hacks, the only way to truly learn your scales well is through lots of time and lots of practice. You gotta spend the time practicing carefully. But the following things will make it easier, maybe make it more fun, probably not more fun, but definitely will lead you in a direction where you can practice your scales efficiently. Without further ado, here are the scale hacks. So I'm going to say this a couple different times, but you should focus on memorizing your scales and learning them very, very slowly, note by note if they're difficult. Give yourself a daily goal of memorizing at least one scale. With C major, we probably already have memorized C major. So play C major a couple times up and down, that's your scale for the day. The next day do G major. Maybe challenge yourself to do 3 octaves. Maybe challenge yourself to do it all tongued. Again, these are easy scales that we probably already have memorized. These are great for articulation exercises, just making them short, doing dynamics, make them interesting so you're not just mindlessly practicing something that your fingers already know. Make it engage other parts of your brain to make it a productive practicing of a scale. When you learn a new scale, warm up with the ones that you already have memorized so that you don't forget the other one. It should always be reviewing. Play all of your scales every single day. You want to know how many sharps or flats are in each scale. You want to know exactly what the sharps and flats are in each scale, and you want to take note of any special fingerings in each scale. So anything that requires pinky keys, what order you're going to do the pinky keys in, anything that requires any chromatic fingerings using the sliver key, using the side keys, things like that. You want to be sure that you practice them super, super carefully with all of these in mind, because nothing is worse and more obnoxious than learning a scale the incorrect way and then going back and having to unlearn what you just learned and relearn the correct way to play a scale. If there is one scale that's giving you a particular problem, let's just talk about E major for a second. Every student that I have ever taught E major to, they always take a couple seconds before they play the scale, just making sure that their fingers are in the right spot and sort of like ghost playing the notes to make sure that they're in the right spot. If you need to play, first of all, build the scale from bottom to top. So with E major, we're playing E with the right hand, so that's E. And then we're going to play F sharp on the right hand, so we do E, F sharp. And then we've got D sharp in the right hand, so we do E, F sharp, D sharp. And I am so impressed with myself that I did not confuse my hands, because I tell my students the wrong hands all the time because I get my lefts and rights confused all the time. So right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right. If you need to play that 50 times, play it 50 times. And you might think that I'm exaggerating, but I am saying this in all seriousness. 50 times. And also consistent playing, because the next day when you put your clarinet together and you go to play E major, you will know exactly what keys to put your pinkies on. And if you don't, 50 more times. Because eventually it'll get under your fingers, and once it's under your fingers and memorized, then it's learned, and then you don't have to worry about learning it, it's just there. There is a great free online resource that I like to use to print out my scales in a pinch. And that is Skyleap Music. I will leave the link to the scale page below. And there is a page on the website that features all of the major scales, the minors, well, the harmonic minors and the melodic minors. So we've got 3 types of scales, plus the major and minor arpeggios, and you can get them 2 different ways. One with the key signature and one with the key signature, sort of like the accidentals next to all of the notes. Because if you're bad at remembering what flats are in the G flat scale, you can actually look at one that has the flat next to every single one of the notes that requires a flat, and you can learn it that way. Build it up from the bottom. Go really slow, note by note. Be sure that you're using the correct fingerings. Now, I say this a lot, and if you don't have a teacher, you might not know this, but for D major and A major, when you're going up the scale, you might be going B, depending on how you play the scale, honestly. You might be doing B on the right, C sharp on the left, and then D natural. I'm going to do B natural on the left and C sharp on the right. And you want to do this for one reason and one reason only. Once you get into muscle memory, your pinkies are going to be so used to when you get into like E major and other scales that require a lot of pinky keys. You get super used, if you go right, left, you're super used to going right and hitting the D sharp. You don't want a D sharp in a D major scale or an A major scale. Left hand B, right hand C sharp. Just make sure you do that for D and A major scale because it makes a D sharp impossible to play because there's no alternate D sharp in the left hand. So that's sort of a little hack if you didn't know already. So speaking of muscle memory, making things nice and easy, memorizing your scales is incredibly useful because it's not only just like your muscles automatically know what to do and you can like feel what the scale sounds like, but that's going to help you in your music when you have multiple sharps or flats in the key signature. You just know which way the pinkies go. You're going to know which fingerings to use if there are chromatic fingerings. Like you just get really used to playing in that key when you're practicing the scale. Also, a trick that is not really, I shouldn't really be telling you this, but there are 3 scales that are exactly the same as 3 other scales, and that is B major is the same as C flat major, G flat major is the same as F sharp major, D flat major is the same as C sharp major. G flat and F sharp, it's 6 and 6, so But when you're talking about B major versus C flat major, C flat has 7 flats, B major has 5 sharps. Which one is easier to play and think about? If you memorize B major, you have already, by default, memorized C flat major. It's the same exact scale, just one is in flats and one is in sharps. So you can actually memorize 6 scales for the price of 3. That's 50% off. I had a student once, and I asked him to play the C flat major scale, and he said C flat, C flat. Okay, so B. If you're gonna do that, don't let on that you're thinking about it in an easier way. Just be like, all right, C flat, I gotcha. Again, that's sort of like a cheat. That is a true hack. All right, the next hack is to give yourself metronome goals. So if you're learning a scale and you're building it, playing it just note by note, put it with a metronome. Even if it's quarter note equals 2. You want to start at a metronome marking that you can play the whole thing perfectly. Not where you can play the thing 80% perfectly, but that you can play it perfectly. Da. That's fine. Keep it steady. Keep it that way. Focus on your tone and the notes. Know what note you're going to before you leave the note that you're on. Be super sure of like the fingerings and everything. Mark in your scales any right, left, rights that you need to mark in. And learn your scale slowly. Once you've got it learned slowly and you feel pretty confident about it, then go up by like 4 clicks. And then go up again by 4 clicks. Spend a week playing at quarter note equals 60. And then maybe the next week go to 70. And then the next week 80. Build up speed slowly in a way that you can always play the scale perfectly. And if you make a mistake, go back a couple. Like go back 12 clicks and just sort of review up to the spot where you couldn't play it perfectly anymore. And eventually you will get there. Again, like I said at the very beginning of the video, nothing is going to replace the time spent on the scales. If you're looking for a really good scale book, I recommend Complete Method for the Clarinet by Baermann. Baermann Pig. I'm talking about the 3rd division when I'm talking about the Baermann book. Yes, my cover fell off a long time ago. I don't know where it went, but that is proof that I have practiced out of this book for many years. And I started on this book when I was probably 15 or 16, and I still play out of it to this day, and I start my students out of it once they have learned the majority of their major scales. It goes all the way up to an F above the C, and then coming down it goes all the way down to low E. So it does go outside the parameters of a regular major scale. But it basically does the same scale twice. You could probably see, don't be afraid that it looks like this, but it goes up and then down and then up again and then down, and then it's got the arpeggio at the end. And it's like that for every single scale. I have here quarter note equals 108, which is what I got it up to, and that was my goal tempo. I would play it once all the way through and then all the way down, and then once I hit the lowest note, going back up, I would tongue. So the first arc would be slurred, the second one, since it's the exact same notes, do it all tongued, and then at the end, for a while, I would take it down to half tempo, and I would do the arpeggio, just so that I was certain to get the altissimo notes. I could get pretty much everything up to a G, but once it starts getting into A flat, A, B flat, you know, the really, really high ones, I would need to take it down just to make sure that my fingers hit the right note at the right time. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Can't stress enough, you want to learn things the correct way the first time. Another good thing that this book has is it has exercises of scales and thirds. It has chords, it's got broken chords, and every exercise is major, minor, major, minor, major, minor. And if you've read Catch-22, you will know why that sounds so familiar. There are staccato and trill exercises. Who knew there were exercises for trills? I knew, because I've played through this book. You don't want to try to play through like 5 pages of this book at once. Like, take a solid week and just work on 1 page, because that's what's really gonna like nail it in. Once you've memorized all of your scales, whenever I get out this baggie in my lesson, I swear my students break out into a cold sweat. Get a bunch of colored index cards, have the green B major, have the pink B melodic minor, and have the yellow B harmonic minor, and give them a good shuffle, and then just play the first 10. Can you play A flat melodic minor? If you can't, go practice. Can you play D melodic minor? If you can't, go practice. Can you play E flat harmonic minor? If you can't, go practice. I think you see where I'm going with this. You want to focus on accuracy, not speed. Always. And that's what I always tell my students. For whatever reason, my students think that I want to hear a really fast, incorrect A major scale, when they could just play it really slowly, note by note, and have it be accurate. Anyways, those are my tips. I hope this helped. Go practice. Oh, and sorry, didn't mean to jump in there. If you're still struggling with scales after putting these into practice, leave a comment below. Leave a comment with how you're practicing scales. Leave a comment with things that helped you. Again, I want to make the comment section a resource for other musicians who are going through similar things, so that they can see other musicians post and know that they are not alone in struggling with scales. So with that being said, now go practice.